John Doe used to sit in a conflicting situation because he used to sit on the board, which was the parent organization, used to sit on the restoration board too, which was the child. So that was to oversee the operations. But anyway, this building could not have happened without Sonny Carson representing the grassroots on this board here at Restoration. And they told the politicians, the clergy, the other professional people in the area, in the neighborhood, that they were not going to fund this organization until the grassroots representation was on that board, which was Sonny Carson. Now, I have lived to see this organization here become a really viable part of the community, and it has caused some heartaches and some pains, but I guess that's all in growth and development. But anyway, my point is, here it is that I've sit around all of these years under the tutelage of Sonny Carson, and this man was able to take seal out of the Bible and reveal it by taking his ancestral bones back to Africa. Can these bones live again? In prophet Ezekiel. And he was able to accomplish that by taking his ancestors back to Ghana. And here we are, still don't want to do for self. We still don't want to do for self. And it just amazes me as to why we want to continue to rely on somebody else providing something for you that you can do for yourself. Mainly, feed yourself. Grow your own fruits and vegetables and whatnot. Because there's going to come a time where the rain, the sleet, the snow, the flood, the fire, and all of that kind of stuff is reaping on the earth.
Poison.
The oil out there in Louisiana is a good example of poisoning the environment. The little fish and the little mammals of the sea. Listen, God asked us to take care of those things. Those are His creation. He asked us to take care of those things. He didn't want them to destroy by the hands of man, because you are disrupting the food chain. And we're going to pay a serious price for that. You know what I mean? So, we have a job to do, to look out for one another and to take care of one another. And because if we don't, we're going to pay a price. The price that we're going to pay, you understand what I'm saying, is that we don't stand together, we die apart. And when you talk about dying apart and you need somebody to help you and to assist you, when you feel that your life is leaving you, it's awesome. When you're used to caring, somebody else is caring for you, and here you are with a building. I can imagine how some of the Haitian people in Haiti felt when their houses and their roofs came down on top of them. And they were yelling and screaming. Buried, not even knowing, some of them buried it, not even knowing that they were going to ever get out or anybody was going to ever come to their rescue. Now, we're going to suffer a real serious thing because we were told over 40, 50 some years ago by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to put non-perishable foods in your house and with water, just in case of emergency. Now, can you imagine an earthquake coming here in America, equivalent to that in Haiti? These buildings here is going to wreak havoc because roads and streets are going to be blocked off, and I guarantee you, I dare say, America will never ever get back to America again because of the colossal damage that it's going to cause, because it's going to first break off your water supply. You're not going to have electricity. They're not going to have access to any roads, because they will be piled up with other buildings. Because this building, if you can imagine the domino effect with high-rise buildings, with steel, how you going to get in this city or out of this city when the tunnels are going to be broken? Because the tunnels that run under the water is really connected to the land base all through the city, and water seeks its own level. So you're going to have a certain amount of water that's going to, in areas that's going to be flooded out. So all of these things.
What about the people trapped?
Yeah, the people, there's going to be a lot of people who's going to be trapped. There's a lot of things you understand. Where the buildings? Can you imagine wintertime coming with a disaster like that? Suppose if it happened during the winter, suppose it happened during the wintertime. How are you going to survive? Just because the windows, there won't be no windows in these buildings, and you won't be able to survive with the cold air, with that thermal air that's coming off of the Antarctic nowadays. We are not thinking about what is to come, because we're busy being entertained by people who think they are God. They done played God so long they have a God complex. So when God shows up, the people's going to suffer. And it says in the Bible, in a situation that says, in the final days, Lucifer will say, I had no power over you. I called and you came. God is calling us, but when Lucifer calls, he calls with a piece of paper, and we line up around the courthouse 2 blocks long to answer this paper here. But when God called, who is the master of all of us and creator of all of us, we don't hear nothing. We cannot imagine. I said, all of these things come to mind when I sit back and concentrate and think. When I'm looking at CNN and other cameras around the world, and I'm looking at people being dug out of these holes and these buildings and whatnot, that's coming here. But I would hope that
these buildings couldn't stand a disaster.
No.
There's too many tunnels in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Too many underground. Sonny had footage of a lot of tunnels in Brooklyn. Where is that footage?
Who do you have with him? I think that boy Mitch Pendleton had that footage. I think that's it's a tall brother, light skin.
I don't know, but he has a lot of footage because he wanted to do my house.
There was a house up on Waverly Avenue in Myrtle, a church.
He had a lot. He had
that church. And
he had Willoughby.
Now I know why those houses were built with double walls. Because at the time of the building process, black men and women were the craftsmen. White folks didn't do that work.
What work?
Masonry.
Sure they did. Sure they did. Bonnell and White are the ones who were the architects of my house.
The white man's ego is too big to get his hands dirty. He wanted to be the mastermind behind it.
Mine were built by a mason and
Peace.
a contractor.
Yeah.
And the name was Bonnell and White. That's who that woman bought that house from.
No.
That's who Harriet Lee Truesdale
that
bought that house from. You know, so those houses that had those spaces in between, remember Brooklyn had an enclave of enslaved people making their way to Canada. This is southern Long Island. This was surrounded by water. So when Brother Ali was talking about if all this happens and the bridges collapse and this and that, they'd have to go back to how they used to go back and forth across the river on barges. Remember Wallabout Bay?
It won't happen because you don't have
Because
no
we've
rafts.
been spoiled. We've been spoiled. We're so a lot of, especially the younger generation, they're so used to it being there. They don't know how it is without it. My children, they know about Wallabout Bay that was over there by the Navy Yard and things. You know what I'm saying? So it's so it's just devastating at the things that people don't know. I didn't know it. That's why I love research. Research is my life. I love research. I love researching the people that lived in that house. I love researching my own self and my own family. I loved all that research. It means something. But you know what I like the most? I like passing it on.
But
I love passing it on.
We got to have the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Now remember you was
So help me God.
But you know what? Remember you was asking me what was I reading in this paper here? This whole thing here with this paper here, the Daily Challenge.
Yeah.
It says Congress honors blacks who built U.S. Capitol. Do you know the architect? The black architect is not mentioned in here. Not one mentioned in this article.
Well, then I think you need to address
and
that.
I'm going to address it tomorrow. I'm going to go right down there and find out why Benjamin Banneker name is not mentioned, because he's the master architect and he was a Moor. He wasn't a slave. Not all slaves built that Washington Monument.
Not all slaves.
There were free black men.
Not all black people were enslaved. Do you know there was some black people that had slaves too? They enslaved people.
Let me just
There was
tell you.
several
Let me just tell you
blacks
about.
that had
Let me just tell you
enslaved people.
about slave and servants. There's a difference in the slave and
Enslaved.
servant.
I like the word enslaved as opposed to slave.
Well,
There were also apprentices.
you see, the reason why I'm saying this here is this. There was a point in time where black men did the work.
When did that stop?
But I'm only saying white men did not build. They weren't builders. They would have built started in Europe. They were not builders. They were stone men. It wasn't until... Well, let me start right now.
They were masons. But that
All of
ironwork,
that stuff.
all that ironwork we have around our houses, all those
You talking about in
different-
the 1800s?
the
about when they
different
first
designs.
Came,
I'm
when they
talking about
first
the
came
different
to
designs.
the shores, when they first came to the shores of this country, they were not builders.
Are you listening to me?
Right.
That ironwork that they have, that was made by enslaved people. That was made by Africans. It was amazing finding that out. All those different designs that are on these gates and things that we take for granted, that we see every day. Enslaved people. Not all of them was enslaved, but it came from
You
us.
see, we don't want to make the same mistake this article is making out here. Because see, the Moors were already in this part of the world, and they were not slaves.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So when these people come here and started setting up, a lot of the Moors, I think they were out in the Midwest.
They were all
around
over.
Chicago, around in the Chicago area.
Oh, you mean the highest
Chicago
concentration
area,
of Moors? Yeah.
And they were the master builders. You know what I mean? And you see, we have to go back and think about
John
when
Henson.
when Europeans was using Roman numbers that
Roman
they had
numerals?
to Roman numbers that they had to abandon.
What do you mean
they
Roman numbers? Roman numerals, you mean? No, I'm serious. Do you mean Roman numerals or Roman numbers? The numbers that came from Rome?
The X, the V, the 1. That's how they used to count. They couldn't
Roman
use that
numerals.
stuff, you understand what I'm saying? And putting it together. They couldn't use that. A lot of us, we leave certain things out of history as though, you understand what I'm saying, that they created everything through the English language. No.
Because we don't write anything down. We
Yes,
don't
that's
write
not
anything
true.
down
That's
because
not
we
true.
wait a minute. We don't write anything down because we were taught not to even write.
No, but that's later. You know, that's later in our lives.
Why aren't
We have
we-
their history. We have the history of their creation.
Thank you, but they can
Pyramids
have
got
it.
hypoglyphs. That's written.
No, but do we know about it? Do
Yeah,
our
I
people
know
know
about
about it?
Why don't-
Because we
why
don't
don't we
study.
know about it?
Because it's not taught in schools. That's why I educate my own.
But that's even past the point of why we don't.
Listen,
What do you mean that's past the point of
Listen.
why we don't?
Joy.
Why
A
don't
lot
we?
of stuff was
Joy.
destroyed.
Joy.
Oh yeah. Oh God. What?
That's the reason why I was saying to you, they cannot count. And when you cannot count, you can't masterfully put anything together scientifically or physically. They had to abandon those numbers that they had. They had to abandon it because it didn't add up. Do you know? I seen there over the Potomac River used to be called the Mason-Dixon line. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what happens when you go across the Potomac? The time was supposed to go back an hour. That disappeared in the 70s, I think. That they went on the time of the South and the North.
Yeah.
There's so many things
That
that
was
disappeared.
ridiculous.
I remember the time when the high school was the 11th grade, and that the 12th was 1 year college. I remember when they added that on.
When was this? I don't remember nothing like that. Sorry,
You
baby, but you by
were-
yourself.
You were in your father's scrotum at the time, perhaps.
Don't use that part. I was a twinkle in my daddy's eye.
Take it from an old master.
Excuse me?
Anyway,
Yes, Mr. Baker?
listen, I'm about ready to go. It's 12 o'clock now.
I know.
Just to be witching hour.
Yeah, it's 12, right?
Yeah. Peace.
Oh, I thought you called me one.